Hey guys, Derek Dumas here. I'm making this tutorial in response to I've actually had like 5 or 6 people message me and ask me how I got the lines without using any textures, and how to have them glow and reflect off the car and everything. And it's actually really simple. I'm sure a lot of people already know. It's not a very complicated process, but at the same time, it's there's a lot to it. There's many steps, I should say. Now, load up Blender. I use Blender 2.79, 2.8. They're both in beta, obviously. But the alpha beta of 2.8, I've gotten mixed reviews. And I came from SketchUp over to Blender. And Blender has a very steep learning curve. I'm still a newbie myself. And what I like about Blender, though, is once you learn, you can go about ways and different techniques of going about how you come to completion. I mean, one person might make the same scene as another person, but they went two totally different ways about going about doing it. So we're gonna jump right in there, and I use hotkeys. If you're learning, you're just learning, I should say. Learn the hotkeys. They're there to help you. They're not there to be a nuisance. And I apologize ahead of time if my computer slows down a little bit. I'm on my laptop. My gaming rig is. I had to get a whole nother hard drive for it. I was watching way too much porn, but that's neither here nor there. It's just a whole different story. So we're going to press X, or you can press delete, whichever. And we're just going to get rid of this. So you click on it there. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to press Shift and A, and we're going to add a plane. Now, it really doesn't matter where we're putting this thing because it's just a quick tutorial. I'm not moving it. Keep in mind, down here in the bottom left-hand corner, that's where your coordinates are going to be when you're resizing things or moving them around. Okay, so we're going to press S for scale, and we're going to scale it 4 times. So as soon as you press S to scale, you're just going to hit 4 and enter. And now what we need to do is if you press tab, it's just one big plain box. Now there's a couple ways that you can go about the next step. You can either add a modifier, a subdivision surface, or not a, I'm sorry, Control Z. Don't do that. See, I'm still new myself. Subdivide. Here we go. And keep in mind, you want to be in the edit mode. And we want to change Blender render to cycles render. Make sure you do that immediately because otherwise you're going to be looking for options that aren't going to be there. I've done that numerous times. And there's also a Blender game render too, but I don't really know of anyone that really uses the game render. Heck, if you're going to do that, use Unity, use Epic's Unreal Engine. Heck, there's quite a few of them out there. I know the Crytek engine, or what used to be the Crytek engine, was bought by Amazon, and that's free as well. It's like Firewood or Fireplace. I forget what it is. Woodlog. Some crap. But this is basically for modeling. So now that we got this and split up, we're going to add more cuts here. And I'm just going to use 10. That's all that it goes up to, but if you want to add more, you can, just by clicking off it or pressing A for all. Hit A for all again, and then you can subdivide once again, and you can add more cuts, but we're not going to do that. So A for all. So Control Z, we're going to go back there. All right. So now that we have our 10 by 10 cuts, or however many cuts this is, we now have our grid. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to press A for all, and down here you have your edges. I mean, these tools, get used to working with these because that really does change a lot. It's amazing what you can do. So we're gonna have our little edge tool here, and if you press there and then you press shift over here, you can just grab those two edges. But what we're going to do is we're just going to go right for the polygons or the surface. So that looks good. Oop. Just go right up. There we go. That looks good. And there's this one. There we go. Now I'm going to lower that a little bit because I still want to have, there we go. It looks a little too tall for me. It's way too far from the surface at the bottom, because that way it gives it a nice look there. And we'll just do that. Heck, we'll grab these 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, and we'll bring those up. And then we'll just bring this one up. You know, play around with it as much as you want. So as soon as you're done, and yeah, you know what, I'll do this one too, because it looks bare over there, and that looks bare here. There we go. So as soon as you're done, you've modeled what you want. Press A for all, get that off, or just hit tab. And now we have the makings of our grid. So we're going to go over here in the right-hand corner. Let's give ourselves some room to work with. And we're going to change plane to ground, just so we know what we're working with, especially if you're, oh, I must have hit caps lock somewhere. Especially if you're working with a lot of objects, it's good to get into the habit of just starting with your hierarchy and just immediately clump things together, nice and neat. So you're not going back once you have 200-300 objects on your screen and you don't know what's what. You're just randomly clicking because you have plane 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just a good habit to get into. It's a great habit. And I learned that, you know, like I said, coming from SketchUp, same thing. Okay. So now that we have that, we're going to want to press Control and C to copy it. And we're going to press A so that it's no longer highlighted. And we're going to press Control and V. That way it makes its own instance, as I call it. We're going to go to ground 1, and we're going to rename that to grid. There. Now we got the 2. So now we're going to jump in between the 2. And what we're going to do is, I don't know, like I said, I don't know how to texture, but materials are, you're going to use materials no matter what, and modifiers. So now comes the easy part, or the quick part, I should say. We're going to go to the ground, and first things first, we're going to change this black. So we're going to add a new material. I believe there's a default. You know what? First material. And we'll call this ground. Oh, there we go. Ground. Grid, ground. So now we're on the ground. Ground has the ground material. And we're going to bring up our preview and custom properties. I don't know where I put that. We're on cycles render. And I am going to, we're not using nodes. Okay, maybe we're not using ground. So we're going to add another one, ground 01. Oh yeah, okay, use nodes. I'm sorry. Back to ground. There we go, use nodes. And we're going to make this a diffuse, and we're going to change that to just straight up black. Alright, and we're going to press Shift and Z. And these are the two grounds mixed together, because now we actually have two objects. We're going to jump over to grid. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go into material, and we'll do ground 01, and we'll call this grid, so we know what the two are. And our grid, I'm going to do it as the color like here, which is a neon green. That's simple enough to find here. We got our neon green, and instead of diffuse, we're going to make that an emission, which means it's going to glow. So Shift and Z. And that's the two mixed together. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're just going to add a modifier on here. And the modifier is going to be wireframe. So if you hit Shift and Z, there you go. So our grid right here, before, never hit apply until you are done and you know that's exactly what you want. Otherwise, you got to delete it. You got to go back. I keep a lot of my modifiers open before I apply them, because I like to jump around. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to change this thickness, and we're going to bring it down. There we go. Move that in. And another cool hotkey too is if you press Shift and F, as in Falcon, and then you can actually use first person controls, which is W to go forward, S to go backward, A to pan left, and D to pan right. If you press Shift, you can actually speed up the process, kind of like you're running. Q is to go down, on the y-axis and ease on the or z-axis. I'm sorry, not the y-axis. And as you can see, that's pretty much all there is to it. And again, I mean, with the way I set this up is, you know, again, grid, if you want to go and use this again, here we go, grid, there we go, jump into this, we can just change, you know, we'll change this to a neon blue. You can just change it right there on the fly. So it's a pretty quick process. Again, it takes a little setting up to do. But essentially, that's how I got this right here. So that kind of gave me my Tron 3D Retro World, which I wanted to do anyways. I just didn't really know how to go about doing it. But that's just my process as to how I came to this this conclusion. I've had other people say, hey, yeah, just, you know, insert a texture and then do it from there, which I'm sure you could do, but again, I don't know how to texture, and that's how I came up with the conclusion of this process. So I hope you guys liked it. Again, it was just a quick tutorial. I tried to keep it under 15 minutes, which hopefully I did. I don't know. When I get my other PC back, I'll be sure, or when I get it ready, I'll be sure to get more tutorials out there. It's been a long time since I posted. But I'm going to be doing a lot more Blender tutorials just because SketchUp, they did it. They succeeded in failing. They've taken a perfectly good product and they destroyed it. So it is what it is, unfortunately. All right. Thank you, guys. And everybody says like and share and all the other stuff. Personally, I really don't give a flying whatever. You know, I'm just, if you like these, you like them. And the main thing is it's here, you know, to help you. So I hope you learned something new and never stop learning, guys. All right, take care.